the speaker said that it is wise to appoint an Aimma as an intermediary.
Mhm.
Okay, so he's like, what would be a counterpoint to this? To have in Dua Tawassul as an
Mhm.
intermediary.
Sayed, just may I add to that, please? Sayed, I was just listening to a lecture that was broadcast this Friday, where one of the reasons for using tawassul is because of the accepted claim that the imam are ma'soom, and therefore putting a sinless person forward is a safe way to have your prayers accepted. So if I was presented this as an argument, what would be a counterpoint to this?
Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, this is what you've highlighted is one of the most common arguments that is used to justify the practice of supplicating to imams, for example. But this is flawed logic, and this is why we should not rely on logic. When it comes to our dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are supposed to follow what He tells us, not what our mind or our heart suggests to us. Because if you go by what your heart and what your mind says, you can even justify Isa being the son of God. There are thousands of logic that the Christians can bring and that we can bring. If Allah were to give us this task, I could justify. I could say, you know what, Ya Allah, He didn't have a father, first of all. Okay. And they're not saying literally you are his father, right? They're saying ittakhad Allah. Allah took him as a son. Okay. Like how the Holy Prophet took Zayd bin Haritha as his son. He adopted him. Okay. But he was not his biological son, and no one claimed that Zayd was the Prophet's biological son. So in the same way, if someone claims that Isa is the son of God, God has taken him, has honored him as his son, what's wrong with that? But the issue is Allah is saying what's wrong with that is you're not allowed to make claims about me. You let me do the talking, let me teach you. وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ, I will teach you this deen. You will not dictate to me what is wise and what is the correct way to approach me. Now, when you look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not teach you to supplicate or to use entities who have left this world as entities through whom He does not ask you to appoint them as mediators or intermediaries to forward your pleas and your petitions to God. He does not teach you that in the Quran. When you come to the Hadith literature, so someone mentioned Dua Tawassul. Well, that's the thing about Dua Tawassul. Dua Tawassul does not even have a sanad. It does not even have a chain. So you have a narration. You can't even say Dua Tawassul is da'if, because it is it is a fabrication from thin air. Normally, what you have is weak narrations. A weak narration is a narration that you have a chain of narrators connecting it to the Imam, but those narrators are not reliable. Dua Tawassul, 1,000 years after the Imam, you have a muhaddith, a scholar of hadith, writing in his book of hadith, Allama Majlisi in this case, in volume 99 of Bihar al-Anwar, he's saying, I found this dua in one of the books. Where is the chain, Ya Maulana? He says, chain, there is no chain, okay? But I just saw this in one of the books. This is called Wijada. And Wijada, the scholars of Rijal will tell you, has no validity. We cannot base anything on Wijada. If you find something in the books, okay, the Ghulat infiltrated the authentic books, the reliable books. So what to say of the books that have not been authenticated? So that is why you need to be very careful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear in the Quran, Ud'uni astajib lakum. He has taught you how to call upon him. In chapter 40, verse 60, he says, Ud'uni, make dua to me, call upon me, I'll answer you. In no place in the Quran does Allah say, call upon someone else, some favored servant of mine, and then they will forward your supplication to me. He doesn't do that. When we come to the teachings of the Imams, inshallah, in one of the future lectures, we will cover in detail, for example, the Wasiyah of Imam Ali alayhi salam, which has been recorded in Nahj al-Balagha as well as in Tuhful Uqul, where he tells his son very clearly that, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not placed any barrier or any curtain between you and him. And he has not required you. وَلَمْ يُلْجِئْكَ إِلَى مَنْ يَسْتَشْفَعُ لَكَ إِلَى مَنْ يَشْفَعُ لَكَ إِلَيْهِ. He has not required you to bring anyone to intercede or mediate on your behalf. He wants to have a direct relationship with you. He wants to listen to you directly. He has not required you, nor has he asked you, nor has he even permitted you to bring anyone in between this direct relationship that he has established between yourself and him. So yes, it is true. People will bring all kinds of logic. One logic that people bring, for example, is they will say when God wanted to contact us, when God wanted to communicate with us, he used the mediation of the Prophet. He didn't reveal the Quran directly on me. Rather, he revealed it on the Prophet, and the Prophet communicated the Quran to me. So now when I want to communicate to Allah, why should I bypass this process? Why should I go directly? Why should I not go through the Prophet? Why should I not follow the same channel that Allah followed? And the answer to that is very simple. This is just like someone, na'udhu billah, second guesses or questions or objects at something the Prophet does. And when someone tells him, why are you doing this? You say, well, Allah has done this in the Quran. Allah has second guessed the Prophet in the Quran. Allah has corrected the Prophet in places in the Quran. So if Allah can do it, why should I not do it? Because Allah is Allah and you are you. What Allah does, you cannot do. Allah, for his hikmah, for some reason that he knows best, chose to send this message to you through the mediation, through an intermediary. But in this message, in the very same message that he sent to you through this intermediary, in that message itself, he told you, when you want to call me, you call me ud'uni, you call me directly. So you go by what Allah has taught you in the message, and you don't use your own flawed logic to deduce things and make claims about Allah, or to institute new practices for which Allah has revealed no approval and no authority in the book.